All filmmaking is art. People do things differently. This is the way that I approach it. Ladies, gentlemen, I am so excited. We did a series of videos with light panels about their Gemini lights. And in that series, we went through and shot 5 short scenes, all utilizing their lights. It's really cool. I'll put a link below to where you can watch those videos for them there. But I want to take some time to talk about some of the things that we really capitalized on that I think would be helpful for other filmmakers. And in this video, I want to talk about shooting dialogue, specifically from a cinematography standpoint. How do you shoot a dialogue sequence? Why do you shoot it that way? And what are the things that you need to think about when coming up with the shots of how to film something like this? So before we get into that, I want to show you a short dialogue scene, one of these little short scenes that we did. Take a look at this, and then we'll talk about how we did it.
I'm Detective Freeman. I see you already met my partner here, Agent Clark. Please, know that we're doing everything we can to find your wife.
Okay. Mr. Copeland here believes that his wife has been kidnapped.
So I already told this guy everything. My wife should be home by now.
Did she mention anything about going anywhere after work?
No, look. When I got home, the front door was left open, okay? And she was gone. Her cell phone and her purse are still here. Why would she leave without those?
Come on, she probably forgot it.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay, Mr. Copeland, we're here to help you, okay? So any information you can give us will help us find her quicker.
Listen, does she have any friends, family? I don't know anybody that she may have gone with?
No, she doesn't have any friends. She's always by herself.
We found something!
All right, that was a ton of fun to shoot, but if you weren't paying attention to the cinematography behind it, it would just feel like we're watching people have a conversation, and that is exactly what you want to have happen when shooting dialogue. So let's dive into how to think about shooting dialogue. We really need to think about things in terms of tone and emotion. And the reason for that is that whatever that tone is in that scene, or the emotion of that scene, is going to directly dictate the shot types that we select. The two things to think about are framing and blocking. Framing is what the camera sees, and blocking is how our talent moves throughout the scene. You should think about things in terms of separation versus overlap, and isolation versus inclusion. And what I mean by that is, in our shot choices, what is happening emotionally in that moment in that scene? If they're arguing and they're not getting along and they're not on the same page, we should probably isolate our two characters in our frames. We should probably make sure that they don't overlap and that we're creating separation. And while subtle, it will reinforce the delivery that those actors are giving in a given scene. The shot types can be the same, but the way that we see our characters in a frame should be different. Blocking refers to how the actors move throughout a given scene, right? And there is a direct power play between the vertical height of an actor and their power in a given conversation. This is why in a lot of scenes you'll have two people sitting, one will get mad, stand up. Now all of a sudden we have changed the power dynamic, or they'll remain sitting the whole time, but our camera's gonna slowly dip underneath one, shooting up on one of the characters, and slowly raise up, shooting down on another character. And those subtle changes in camera height relative to the actors are going to impose or pull power from one actor or another. Now that we got some of that heady stuff out of the way, let's talk about how we go about actually setting up shots to film our actors. You're about to get a face full of my art skills. You're welcome. Okay, so I have two detectives sitting in chairs here, sitting in chairs here, and then I have my third sitting on the couch here, like this, okay? Here are my 3 people. Yes, you're welcome. Those are 3 people, deal with it. With these 3 people, their interaction changes kind of throughout the course of their conversation, starting kind of friendly, getting less friendly throughout. So our camera, while it starts with this, again, kind of inclusion and togetherness, kind of moves into separation and isolation throughout this. So let's break down the shots that we have for this and why we chose those shots. So we have a master shot. That master shot is over here. Kind of moving into the corner of the room, and this shot then shows all three people together in that same room. Again, giving us the most visual information that we can. We come back to this later, but with a punched up one, which turns into just an over the shoulder here of this detective from this person's perspective. So we have kind of a punch in of this, two separate shots, but we have those shots there. The 180 line, by the way, in this scene kind of goes diagonally this way. I'm not gonna draw through the whole thing, but it kind of comes across my scene like this. So this is kind of where I'm gonna stay on this side of the frame, filming in this way around here, and I'm never gonna be cutting back across the room this way. We have our master shot, and then we have our first over-the-shoulder shot facing this person. Our second over-the-shoulder shot is here, which is going from this subject to my lady over here. Again, we then have a punch-in version of that where we actually break across and go into a single shot of her. The inverse of that is also true, where we have an over-the-shoulder shot here, coming back across. We then have an isolation shot when our character starts arguing with the police, where we are straight coming across this way, coming in that way, again, separating him entirely from the other two detectives, building that sense of separation and frustration. We have a single shot on our detective here, like that. We had a shot here, we also caught it here. We had our single shot here, which was our closing shot on our subjects. The last and final shot was a single shot of our person on the couch from over here. Now, this looks like utter chaos, right? This looks like we've got a whole lot happening, but let's break it down just from kind of a writing perspective. Our first shot is our master shot. That is our shot that gives us all of the information that we could possibly want. Then we have over the shoulder shots. So 2, 3, and 4 are all over the shoulder shots. Tracking so far? Then we have singles on everybody. So we have 5, 6, and 7 are all single shots, which are either tighter over the shoulder shots, but more specifically, it will be just single shots on that person. Our main character also has a separate isolation shot, which is that shot that's that confrontation full profile. So 8 is gonna be that. And our 9th shot gets kind of wedged in here. I'm gonna just kind of write it down here. These are our 9 shots, and that dialogue sequence is less than a minute long. Imagine trying to carry that scene with just 3 shots. That's not gonna work. It's gonna be so visually boring that even the best of actors aren't gonna be able to carry that scene in a way that makes it visually compelling. Now that we've talked about the shots themselves, right? These are the shots that we used. This is the reason why we used them. I now wanna talk about performances. So, for this, we used one camera, which means that we set up a new shot and went through the scene with that shot every time. Now, this is where you start to get into things where a lot of your TV multicam stuff, they're just gonna start ripping and running through this with multiple cameras, which takes less takes, and that's fine. But most of us don't have the luxury of running a multicam shoot, or if we do, it'll be 2 cameras, not 9, because all of the cameras would get in each other's way and you wouldn't be able to really see what was going on. With that in mind, one of the things that's really important from a production standpoint or a director's standpoint is to not just have the actors rattle off the lines that they say in that shot and then move on. It's really important to go through the entire scene each time with each angle and for as many takes as you need to get it right. And there's 2 reasons for that. The first is that actors need to act off of each other. Scene partners in a scene are super important because the better one actor acts, the better another will act off of them. And that chemistry that you get between actors is so important to getting a compelling delivery. And that chemistry that you're building between your actors is so important to get a performance that is the best you can out of the actors that you're working with. The other reason why it's important is because reaction shots are just as important as action shots. Now, action shots, of course, is when you have a person on camera, they say their line, we see them saying their line, that's all good and fine. A reaction shot is when somebody is listening to another person speak and seeing that person's reaction to what the other person who's off camera would be saying. This is the thing that I see the least of in student and kind of beginning indie level filmmaking is I don't see any reaction shots. But reaction shots tell us so much about how characters feel about what the person they're in the scene with is saying. And in that, it cues the audience into how they should be feeling about what that person is saying. And you're not gonna get those really key reaction shots if you're just sitting there ripping out lines. Like, you say these 3 lines, okay, cut, now we're gonna go over here. You say these 3 lines. You're not gonna get any of that. And reaction shots are so unbelievably important. Let's say you've got all 9 of your shots all lined up, gone through your storyboard, done all of your performances. You have your action shots, you have your reaction shots, and now we're in the edit. This is where a thing called L cuts and J cuts becomes super, super, super important. If you've never heard of what an L cut or a J cut is, those refer to bringing in video or audio before the other. Very rarely do we want to have a hard cut. A hard cut is where we would have audio and video cut from one shot to another at the same time. The reason why we want to use hard cuts sparingly is because they draw a lot of attention to themselves. This is where something like a jump scare comes in, right? A hard cut to a jump scare works really fine because we don't want to lead anybody into knowing what's coming next. It all is just going to happen right away. Shy of that, we really want to hide our edit. We want to mask the edit because, again, just like we don't want the audience to expect what's coming next in our shot variety, we also don't want them to expect the edit. We want to be as invisible as possible. And by bringing audio in first or bringing video in first, those 2 things, that L cutting and that J cutting, is going to hide our edit, hide the seams between the performances. Because, again, we have 9 shots from 9 different takes, at least, maybe more, from 9 different performances. So if we're hard cutting between each of these performances, we're really going to feel the difference from take to take to take. Whereas if we L cut and we J cut, it's going to start to really mask the differences between those takes. With that in mind, let's look at this little scene one more time. Watch for L cuts, watch for J cuts, watch for actions and reactions. Look at this.
I'm Detective Freeman. I see you already met my partner here, Agent Clark. Please, know that we're doing everything we can to find your wife.
Okay. Mr. Copeland here believes that his wife has been kidnapped.
So I already told this guy everything. My wife should be home by now.
Did she mention anything about going anywhere after work?
No, look, when I got home, the front door was left open, okay? And she was gone. Her cell phone and her purse are still here. Why would she leave without those?
Come on, she probably forgot it.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay, Mr. Copeland, we're here to help you, okay? So any information you can give us will help us find her quicker.
Listen, does she have any friends, family? I don't know anybody that she may have gone with.
No, she doesn't have any friends. She's always by herself.
We found something!
Have enough shots to tell your story. Think about it tonally. What is happening emotionally? Where should my characters be? How should they be blocked? How should they be positioned? How should I create power in that? Separation versus overlap, isolation versus inclusion. Think about that in terms of tone. Where is our camera going to be? What is it going to do? But make sure that you have enough shots in your scene that your audience isn't going to get bored and they're not going to expect what's coming. Make sure that you record all of the performance, action and reaction. Let your actors work off of each other. They're going to give you better performances if you do. And finally, in the edit, L cut and J cut. Hide your seams, hide your edit. You want this to feel as flawless as possible so that way your audience lives in the world that you've created. I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, do me a favor, give this video a like. If you want to see more stuff like this, hit subscribe and that bell, and as always, I'll see you in the next episode.